The little girl simply raised her hand and instantly turned a human trafficker into a dog. Because after the little girl got lost, she had been following her teacher in the mountains, learning magic, until the girl began eating more and more each day, almost 20 chickens a day. Looking at his empty farm, the teacher couldn't help but grow worried, afraid that the girl would eat him into poverty. So he quickly used magic to calculate the whereabouts of the girl's parents. Upon learning that the girl's father was the president of a public corporation, he wanted her to go down the mountain to find her father. But before the teacher could finish saying her father's name and location, the girl had already used magic to go down the mountain. But since it was her first time going out, she didn't know the roads at all. She could only rely on the tool in her hand and ended up wandering in circles. She wanted to ask an uncle by the roadside if he knew where the corporation was, but she didn't realize that the two men in front of her were actually human traffickers. Seeing that the girl was alone asking for directions, they immediately grew excited, thinking that such a beautiful girl could definitely be sold for a lot of money. Looking at the innocent girl, they lied, saying they could take her to find her father. The girl agreed without the slightest hesitation, but she still asked suspiciously if they would lie to her, and said bluntly that if they did, they would turn into puppies. Hearing this, the men immediately promised they wouldn't lie to her, and even made an agreement with her. But they didn't know the girl had already used magic to form a contract with them. If they lied, they would truly pay the price. Soon, the girl followed the two men to a small house, but the next second, they locked her inside. Then she saw other children who had also been kidnapped. Only then did the girl realize the two men outside were traffickers, so she immediately used magic and teleported in front of them, furiously questioning the men before her. "Weren't you supposed to take me to see my dad?" The traffickers, at this moment, stared at the girl in shock, not understanding how she escaped. But hearing her words, they immediately became angry and tried to punish her. But the bullets were stopped by the girl's magic blocked outside a barrier. The girl glared angrily at the two men, each step she took making the ground tremble. The two men backed away in fear, but were still slammed against the wall by a spell. They hurriedly begged for mercy, but the girl was furious. According to their agreement, she turned them into puppies. The next day, the girl brought the kidnapped children and the traffickers, now dogs, to the police station. At this time, the children's parents had already rushed to the station anxiously, waiting for news of their children. Seeing their children return, the parents immediately rejoiced. When the parents asked who had saved them, the children excitedly looked toward the girl and said directly that she was the one who saved them. The girl calmly looked at everyone and even called in the two traffickers who had already turned back into humans. After what happened the night before, the two men looked at the police in fear, begging them repeatedly to arrest them, afraid the girl would turn them into dogs again. Soon, only the girl was left in the station, but she couldn't remember her father's name, only that her father was the president of a public corporation. But little did she know, her grandfather was gravely ill and close to death. His greatest